I am Michelle Rowan, President of Franchise Business Review, and today we are talking to some folks from Mathnasium. We have had the pleasure here at Franchise Business Review of working with the Mathnasium team since 2006, collecting feedback from their franchise owners. And also we get feedback from the corporate team, and that started back in 2020, which shows how committed this team is to the culture of their organization. They have received over 40 franchise satisfaction awards through the years, including top franchises for veterans, top franchises for multi-unit owners, top franchises for women, top low-cost franchises, and they are a Hall of Fame award winner, which is given to brands that have received our overall top franchise satisfaction award for 10 years or more. Today, we are chatting with Shen. He's the Chief Development Officer of Mathnasium. So he has been with them for 2 years, but has been in franchising for 10, and he's working with people that are exploring joining the Mathnasium system. And then joining Kevin, we have 2 franchisees in the system. Stuart has 2 locations in Georgia, has been a franchisee for almost 10 years. And then we have Kimberly Smith, a franchisee with 4 locations in Michigan, and has been with the system for almost 16 years. So we've got some experts on this call. Thank you guys all for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited. So the goal today is to understand what it's like to own a Mathnasium franchise and help people understand what it takes to be successful. So before we jump into that, I wanted to just highlight some of the data from the most recent survey that was sent out to the entire network of franchise owners. When we asked them, we had 91% of franchisees agreed or strongly agreed that they enjoy operating the business. 90% of franchisees agree that they are supportive of the brand, and 89% of franchisees agree that they enjoy being part of the Mathnasium brand. So this all really kind of highlights that, again, what I said at the top is that the culture of this organization is pretty special. So I'm going to start with Kimberly. Tell us a little bit about what you were doing before you joined the Mathnasium system and kind of how you got to the decision of wanting to own a franchise, or more specifically, to join Mathnasium.
Great. So prior to joining Mathnasium, I worked in the automotive industry for Chrysler for about 13 years. My background is industrial and operations engineering. I studied that at the University of Michigan, and I joined Chrysler immediately after. My roles varied throughout Chrysler, mostly in the manufacturing side of the business. My last role was an operations manager for an axle assembly plant. So running a 3-shift operation there, but also was a new mom. And so I had young children in that role. My youngest, when I started with Mathnasium, I had children that were 5 and 2 years old. My main reason for choosing to leave corporate America was because I felt like I wasn't going to be present in my children's life, and I was seeking an entrepreneurship type opportunity that would allow me to be more present, allow me to have a more flexible schedule, and also allow me to, have my children, part of the business. They could be present with me at work and fit right in. And so I was seeking a franchise that was based in education, having a strong math background, having passion for education and math. So I was seeking out a franchise that focused on that. And in my research for, looking at opportunities, I found Mathnasium in the middle of the night one day and nudged my husband and said, I found it. This is it. I hadn't talked to anybody, but I just knew that this would be where the career change would happen and would allow me to achieve the goals that I sought out for.
That's amazing. I love that. Stuart, how about you? What was your experience before Mathnasium, and then how did you come upon Mathnasium and choose that as a franchise for you?
That's a great question. My background is primarily aviation. I worked for Charleston County in South Carolina in their mosquito abatement unit that used a bunch of aircraft. And I took a position in Atlanta as a general manager of a helicopter company. Did flight training, tours, photography, videography, all sorts of stuff, managed aircraft for people. And it was when that sort of came to an end, the company was sold and I moved on and worked for one of the owners running a couple of restaurants that he owned. And I found that to be totally unfulfilling. It was difficult. The hours were rough. I didn't have enough time to spend with my kids and my family. And so I took a position in a program for students with behavior disorders in Fulton County schools. And I did that for about 4 years. I just fell in love with working with kids. And it was through that that I met another teacher whose daughter had been struggling with mathematics. She had math first period. She just started 6th grade, already a difficult time for any kid. And having math first period and struggling was really spilling over into the rest of her school. And she told me her daughter enrolled, and sort of that was that. I guess 6 or so months later, my wife and I were hanging out with this other teacher and her husband. And I said, "How's it going at Mathnasium?" And she looked at me, and keep in mind, we're working with the highest need population in schools in a special ed program. I had 7 kids in my class and 2 other teachers. And she looked at me and said, "Mathnasium is making more of a difference than we are." I found that to be shocking. I didn't believe her. But that's what prompted me to start looking into what Mathnasium was, what they were doing, what their approach was. And I flew out for a discovery day, and that's sort of what set me on this path.
Awesome. So, so just for people that don't know, a discovery day is when you decide that you're very interested in the brand and you go and kind of see what they're about, talk to the leadership team, talk to other franchisees. So that's excellent. So these are 2 very different backgrounds that found their way to Mathnasium. So Kevin, I want to go to you, and what type of qualities are you looking for someone that is interested in joining Mathnasium? Your job is to find the right fit for your brand just as much as it is for the person that's exploring you to realize if, or to understand if this is the right fit for their goals. So how are you doing that? Who are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, it's really a varied population, but I would say, primary skills or qualities are, one, just a desire to make a difference either in your own lives or that of your communities. It's a business at the end of the day, and a really strong one at that. But success in this business is not only measured by revenue and profits, but by also making lasting change in students' lives. 2, I would say, is having an entrepreneurial spirit. It's a business where the more leaned in you are, the more engaged you are with parents groups, with teachers, schools, administration, and various entities in the community, the more success you'll find in your business. Everything else, frankly, we have the experience, we have the tools, we have the support to help you learn and manage through. So you certainly don't need an education background. In fact, many of our most successful operators don't come from education backgrounds. You don't need to have had prior business experience or retail operating experience. But if you have that desire to make a difference and you have an entrepreneurial spirit, we certainly think that those folks will make great Mathnasium franchisees.
Love it. So Kimberly, when you started, did you start on your own? Did you have employees? What did your day-to-day look like as you launched the business, if you can remember back that far?
So I did start on my own, and was able to kind of, build up the business at the time with some, family and friends that were in the in our community, and then began to, seek out, support with, bringing on, instructors. For a lot of the time in the beginning, I was an owner operator where I was, the center director of the one center that I had at the time. And then, as I expanded, was able to bring on a team, to support that, and hire center directors as the team was, or as the centers, um, as I became more of a multi-center owner.
Yeah, as you grew. Awesome.
Yes.
So I think that, Kevin touched upon it, and I think one, not a misconception, but I think a common thing we see is franchisees come in thinking the franchisor is going to drive all the business into my center. And he mentioned that just the importance of that community involvement. So it sounds like you were using that community to help build your business before you had a staff to do it as well. What were some of the things you were doing in the community to just build the brand so people were aware of you?
Yeah, so in the beginning, 16 years ago, Mathnasium was a very new franchise, and so brand recognition was not quite a thing at that time. And so I would say that there were a lot of discussions about, what is Mathnasium? What does Mathnasium do? Like all of the calls and conversations that I was having would be more about explaining, the business and the types of things that we do and how we support kids with respect to math. What's our process of supporting kids? So educating those in the community. I've been part of a organization called, Jack and Jill of America, where my kids, it's a community organization for African American families. And so having a lot of moms that were in my circle, initially, understanding what Mathnasium is and how Mathnasium could support their children through their educational career was really a good stepping stone there. Another thing that was very near and dear to my heart was supporting students that could not afford to attend a Mathnasium. And so I initially started out with establishing a relationship with an inner city school, with a school partnership. Even prior to opening up the brick and mortar, I was able to get into a school and offer a program for students in the inner city.
Wow.
So that was another way of being able to get into the community and share what Mathnasium does, and offer the program and follow the passion initially to be able to offer that for students that were underserved.
That's great. Awesome. And Stuart, I think I understand your wife is in the business with you too. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Initially, she was much less involved. As our kids have grown and gotten older, it's grown into something that we very much co-operate. So we started with one location, and we worked to partner with folks in our community, our local schools, and built that location up. In 2022, we acquired our second location. We have a full-time center director who runs that location. And Lauren and I primarily operate our Beaufort location together, which I realize for some couples would be less than ideal. But for us, it's really wonderful. I mean, one of the reasons that Mathnasium was appealing to me, well, the biggest reason really had nothing to do with making a lot of money, and it's been very successful. That's not my point, but it was about working every day to make my community better, to make the schools in my community that my kids attend stronger, to make a difference and feel like every single day, the actions I take, the things that I do have a purpose. And they do. It's remarkable to be able to do something every single day that directly impacts your community. But my day starts with Lauren and I walking the kids to the bus stop, and we walk back to the house, have a cup of coffee. I could work in my garden, growing and doing things that we enjoy. Maybe I go in the morning and volunteer at a school. I do that at my kids' school a lot because I have some flexibility during the day. And then I get to, again, go to work and talk to people about what is truly a life-changing service. And that really can't be overstated. It is changing lives, and not just changing lives in like your child will have more confidence. That's great. Your kid will have a slightly better or a better grade in middle school. That's wonderful. But there's this body of research that kids with better proficiency in math, they're more likely to start and finish college with a degree. They earn more money when they're adults, no matter what field they go into, and they're happier, probably because they're making more money. But you're able to work and do something that doesn't just impact your community today, but it will continue to provide better outcomes for kids 20 years down the road.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I love that. So Kevin, you mentioned in when you first spoke that you offer a lot of tools and training and support for your franchisees. What does that look like? What do you do for new franchise owners coming into your system as far as supporting them and getting them up and running in their business?
Yeah, sure. So we have a world-class suite of support and tools to help franchisees succeed. Like you mentioned, this really starts from as soon as you join the system. All owners go through new owner training, which includes virtual self-paced modules as well as in-center training at one of our corporate-owned locations in the Los Angeles area. There's a deep repository of training materials on really any subject that you can think of, as well as lots of live trainings that are really meant to allow you to pick and choose where you want more education and support. We have our proprietary Radius platform, which is kind of like the one-stop shop. It's how we deliver the curriculum. It's where the CRM happens. It's also the point of sale system. Three, I would say we have fantastic operations team that supports our franchisees with dedicated franchise business consultants that will check in with franchisees to see how they're doing, where they want more support, share best practices across the system, conduct business reviews to see where things are and how we can help them tweak or try any new ideas. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the franchisees themselves. In my experience, it's the most collaborative franchise system that I've been a part of. Folks here, have mentors within the system. They're very active, across, whether it's Google groups or little, kind of pods for their region specific areas or whatever the case may be. Anyone can ask questions and lean on the experience of people who, have done this before, right? And so there's lots of different cohorts that are meeting, that are texting, that are just sharing ideas. So deep training tools and support.
Yeah, I love that. I think that the franchisee community is the strongest selling point in a franchise system because you have all these owners that are in the same business as you. So how much you just have access to these people that have probably made some mistakes that you can learn from and avoid them. And also just that tapping into them and sharing those best practices is amazing. Kimberly, I'll go to you. Just how do you use your franchise community? How often are you talking to them or connecting with them, either in person or over the phone? But how are they supporting your business, or how are you helping to support others?
Yes, I would say that at this point, 16 years in, I would say that I'm probably more of a mentor to new franchisees coming in and those that are currently, in operation. I would say probably weekly, I get a text from at least one or two. In fact, while we're on this call, I just got one from a new franchisee that's going to be opening up very soon in our very close in our state. But it's something that I feel like I owe back. It's like karma, right? We're not in competition with each other, even if we're in a territory next door to each other. If each of us is doing well, we all are doing well, and families, kind of cross-pollinate, right? Because if there is a family in my center that knows a family that lives in a different, neighboring city, and they hear about Mathnasium, and hear positive things about Mathnasium, then a family in that particular owner's territory, will benefit from that. So helping others to be successful in their business and giving them a bit of an opportunity to have someone as a sounding board that has had experience over the years. Have you tried this particular marketing idea? Someone, reached out to me about this. Do you think I should try it? There's no need for having to reinvent the wheel, and at least just offering an opinion, that this is how I did it. You certainly can do things, the way that you choose, but having that experience and someone that they can tap into to share an opinion or share some knowledge is invaluable. And I think that is a testament to what has already been said about the network of franchise owners, franchisees within Mathnasium is absolutely immeasurable. It is just really a resource that we're all very willing to support each other, and I haven't run across a situation where that's not been the case.
Yeah, that's great. Stuart, is there anything else that you'd like to add just about kind of tapping into your franchisee community, or how you use them or help them?
My experience has been just fabulous. There's so many wonderful owners. The owners in the Atlanta area. I actually spearheaded an effort to create a cooperative group that did marketing together, would share and co-spend on activities that would be out of reach for an individual center by themselves. But I mean, weekly, sometimes daily, I'm talking to other owners, having lunch with other owners, and truly, the stronger the other Mathnasiums are around you, the stronger your Mathnasium becomes. And so I've found a really, really supportive community, and not just the community of owners, but Mathnasium as a franchisor over the years has constantly been refining their support, what that looks like, listening to franchisees. They have a process where they have a panel of owners that they listen to. And the support has evolved in a way where it is extremely robust. And I have access to answers for any concern, any question. It's really just a fabulous community to be a part of.
Yeah, I love it. So now we're all like fluffy, love our community. Let's go to the other side. What do you, when you think back, when you said, and I'll start with you, Stuart, what were some of the biggest challenges that you had in just getting started or running the business in that first year or two?
Some of the biggest challenges for us was, getting the word out, building some brand awareness in the community. Again, this was 11-ish years ago when we were first starting out. And I think there has been a dramatic increase in brand awareness. But there are challenges around finding your first instructors, finding folks who are qualified. And I don't mean just have a grasp of the math. I would argue that's kind of the second thing that they should be good at. The first is they have to be, relatable people with great personalities who have high emotional intelligence, who can treat people with kindness and dignity in any situation. And then they've also got to be great at math. So that can be a bit of a challenge. But once you get a hold of a few great instructors, they tend to create other great instructors through their friendships or their network. Mathnasium is such a positive, uplifting place to be that instructors love to be here. They love changing lives. They love the impact they have. And so that's a big challenge initially, I think, is finding instructors. And then beyond that, I think staying focused on what is important can be a challenge. You're always looking at, how do I get more students and where do I spend money? And the sort of secret is the best way to get more students is to do a great job with the students you have, even if it's one student. That life-changing experience, parents want to share that They're proud. They tell their grandparents, they tell their aunts and uncles, they tell their friends. Stuart was struggling so much in math, but now, so I think going back, I would focus 99% of my effort on just the students that are in the building. How do they feel when they walk in the door? How do they feel when they leave? And I think that is really the biggest thing to focus on in order to grow your Mathnasium.
Awesome. So Kimberly, I want to go to you on your biggest challenges, and then I have another question for Kevin around this.
So interestingly enough, I would echo exactly what Stuart said.
Awesome. Yeah.
The, initial instructors, and just kind of getting an understanding, not coming from, an education background, getting an understanding of the skill sets of individuals coming in, and learning about the fact that, some teachers may not be your best instructors. If you, have teachers coming in, looking to become instructors at your center, and nothing against teachers. I think just the way that education is structured, where teachers have to be so multifaceted and have to cover a wide range of concepts, especially elementary teachers. Some of them have more of a math focus and are stronger in math, and some have more of a literary focus. And so, just kind of understanding the difference there, and then knowing that there are so many other individuals that can be strong as instructors and in Mathnasium, and expanding your mind to kind of be open to other backgrounds, being instructors at the centers. But finding those individuals that are strong in math and also have what Stuart mentioned, the emotional intelligence to work with students that struggle in math. Most individuals that are strong in math may not be able to explain math in a way that makes sense, because it comes naturally to a lot of individuals that are strong in math. Myself in particular, my background is engineering. I've always been strong in math, but I have the ability to empathize with students and understand what it feels like, or what it might feel like, to be a student in a classroom that's not understanding their teacher. And so finding people like that, they're like unicorns, and you have to be able to pick those unicorns out of, a pool of candidates, because they are your face of the business. They are the individuals or the people that the students will interact with on a day-to-day basis. And much like Stuart mentioned, focusing on that student experience is what makes a world of a difference, as far as growing and developing your base of families that attend Mathnasium at your center.
Awesome. So Kevin, my question to you then is, does Mathnasium do anything to help franchisees on the marketing and advertising side?
Yeah, absolutely. Home office handles all of the big picture marketing, from national marketing to asset creation, websites and landing pages, webinars, conventions, and the like. We also manage preferred vendor relationships. Specifically, on the national marketing side, we handle all of the big buckets. So, TV, broadcast and streaming, radio, broadcast, Pandora, Spotify, podcasts. On the digital side, pre-roll native parent sites, and even, influencers we've worked with across social media. So, we try to take all of that off of the franchisees' plates, and then let them do what we can't do, which is, really just be in the community, talking to teachers, talking to parents, at the community events, and really try to, help them maximize their time and energy on those fronts.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask each of you to share some advice that you would give to someone that is considering buying a franchise, or they're in the middle of researching, and it could be specific to Mathnasium or just in general. What advice would you give them, or what do you, to Kimberly and Stuart, what do you wish that you had known before you became a franchisee? Kimberly, I'll start with you.
So the advice that I typically give, because a lot of times I get phone calls from those that are researching and want to speak to current franchisees, um, is to think about your own personal makeup. You know, what are your skill sets? What is your personality like? You know, do you have a customer focused personality? Because this business really is about customer focus and customer service to not only the students but also to the parents. Um, being a parent myself, and if I were to look at a place that I was going to invest in my student receiving support, I would want to feel like my student is the most important student that you have at that center, and being able to provide that feeling, even though you've got hundreds of students, and having a mechanism and a system in place that is focused on, what a student needs and being able to deliver what that student needs on a day-to-day basis. The income and influx of questions and needs from families and being able to field those appropriately. Um, do you have the temperament to be able to do that in a consistent, high quality level? And so if you don't feel like that is something that you can do as an individual, as an owner, or at least be able to relay to your staff to be able to provide that, then maybe this is not a business for you. Maybe it's not, a business where it is this customer focused. Um, you know, Maybe this is not the fit. But if you are that type of person, then this is a fabulous way to be able to give back and to, be personally rewarded for all of the students that, you have touched over the years. It's a very rewarding business if you feel as though, you're able to provide that to families.
Excellent. Stuart, how about you? Some advice that you would give or something that you wish you'd known before you invested in a franchise?
I think for Mathnasium specifically, I think you need to know coming in that it's all about building relationships, and that really is the bottom line. It's building relationships with students, obviously, creating a space where they feel welcome and cared for, building relationships in your community with schools and school leaders and community leaders, and building relationships with parents. And if that's not something that you're willing to tackle, or you don't feel like that's something that you should probably look for something else.
Yeah.
I think at the center of every successful Mathnasium is someone who's great at developing relationships.
That's great. That's something you can't hire out. So Kevin, how about you? What advice do you have, or kind of how do you, I don't want to say discourage candidates from moving forward, but really setting realistic expectations? What advice do you give, or what do you tell somebody that's considering franchising to help them really think about it before they invest?
Yeah, I mean, I would, almost try to put myself in their shoes and try to figure out what my priorities are as far as a business that fits your needs. So maybe it's having a low investment costs, or maybe you want to make sure that the business provides you with a better work-life balance than you currently have. You need to figure out if you kind of want to sell a commoditized product, food, pizza, what have you, or do you want to be a service-based business? And each of these has its own pros and cons, right? So, there's probably a list of 10 criteria that I would have, and then I would start researching potential options and then kind of ranking or scoring them based on how they fit with your priorities and what you're looking for. And then more specifically on the research side, me being in the industry, I would say go through everybody's franchise disclosure document, or FDD, with a fine-tooth comb. It's the best resource, source of information for for the business, and you have to kind of lay it all out there. It's a heavily regulated industry, and so you got to be truthful and transparent with everything that's out there. And so, look heavily at their item 2 to figure out, who these people are and their background, and does it match with what the company's trying to achieve. Look at their item 3, see if they have any litigation, which is always kind of a red flag. A quick plug for Mathnasium. We have a very clean item 3, no pending litigation. Always a good sign. Look at the item 7. It spells out the startup costs, the fully baked startup costs of business. So, don't necessarily put too much equity in somebody saying, "Oh, I started this business out for 50K or 100K," when the item 7 says it's going to cost 200 or 300K, right? That's a very vetted number that they have to disclose to you. And of course, item 19, which details the revenues, expenses, profitability across the franchise system. So, for me personally, anytime anybody doesn't have an item 19 or a very robust built item 19, that would lead to a lot of questions, right? If you have a good story to tell, why aren't you telling that story, right? So, yeah, I think it's being thoughtful and strategic about finding the opportunity and then doing very meaningful, deep research to make sure that, the concept that you ultimately partner with, makes sense for you.
Yeah, great advice. What the things I would add on to that are item 19s aren't regulated in what a franchisor has to share. So you're not looking at apples to apples. So really understand what that item 19 is telling you, what that data is coming from. But great point on that. And the other thing that's really important in the FDD is a list of all your current franchise owners. And that is always our advice, is to talk to franchise owners. And what I love about this is you guys are all talking about the reasons that you joined this business and how proud it makes you, the work that you're doing in people's lives and in your communities. And I think that really drives people to make that kind of life change. It's hard. Change is hard. So I really appreciate you guys telling that story and really just showing how much you care about your students and how much you really are doing to help people get better or just enjoy their experience in school better. So do you have any parting words that you'd like to share with? I love this. This was a great conversation and I appreciate you all joining us. But anything else that you want to add before we sign off today?
Let Kimberly or Stuart go first.
I think that, the 16 years kind of tells it all, right? That, 16 years and also, wanting to expand to different communities and also being able to offer the program in school partnerships tells a story of how passionate I am about this business and how much it means to me. And I feel that, everyone that I've spoken to about this business, I'm very honest about it. And everything I've said today, comes directly from a place of either experience or place of honesty. That Mathnasium is certainly a business that I'm very proud of. And I feel like it has allowed me to achieve, the life goals that I've set out for myself.
That's wonderful. Stuart, anything else you want to add?
I would just add that, running a successful Mathnasium and building a successful Mathnasium is not easy. It's difficult. It takes effort and intention, and, it's challenging to do. It's also the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. And I couldn't see myself ever doing anything else.
Those are great points, because I think sometimes there's a misconception that I invest in this franchise and just kind of sit back. And you do have to work in the business. Any business owner, franchise or non-franchise, those first few years are always heartbreakingly hard. And then Kevin, you can wrap us up.
Sure. I may be a bit biased, but I do strongly believe that Mathnasium is a very compelling opportunity. But we always welcome the opportunity to chat with folks and see if it's potentially a fit for them. We welcome them to do as much research as possible. We welcome prospects to reach out to our franchisees like Kimberly and Stuart and hear about the experience directly from people who've done it before. So, really, if there's anything that that you've heard today that sounds appealing, please don't hesitate to reach out and just have a conversation with us.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We appreciate your time.